Good morning, Jet. That is assuming that you wake up early enough to see this in the morning, but I'm going to assume that you will. I am drinking my tea. I have my bottles of lotion, and I am ready to start winding this day down. Two things I wanted to clarify from the video from yesterday is I forgot to mention when I was in kindergarten, we did not have chairs and desks. We had lines painted on the floor in primary colors, and we could choose what line we wanted to sit on every day. Yes, I chose the green line every day. Also, there was a picture that I showed of a lady that was holding me, and I was a baby. At the time that I think I might have been talking about my aunt. That was not my aunt. Remember, I told you there was a pretty big age gap. That lady was my cousin, my aunt's daughter, who was pregnant with her child. So, yeah, there was a pretty big age gap. So, I left yesterday's story off at the divorce between my dad and the first stepmother. it was they kind of pulled the rug out from under me. Granted, I didn't really care for these people, but I was 8 years old. I didn't really know why. All I knew that all I knew was that these two people who had been in constant presence through my entire life since infancy were all of a sudden gone. And so it was interesting, and then it got a little more interesting because about a month after that, my dad got transferred to the night shift. So here I am, an 8-year-old with behavioral problems, alone, in an apartment, all night long, where I promptly ran the streets all night with reckless abandon in the fourth largest city of the United States. Also in there, my dad taught me how to ride a bike. And a story related to that is the last time I was in Houston, which was approximately 2 years ago, I decided I was going to go find the place where I learned how to ride a bike. Now, it was in the parking lot of a big grocery store on a Sunday morning, and at the time, the grocery store was not open because it was Sunday. I mean, the department store was not open because it was Sunday. And my dad taught me how to ride a bike in that parking lot. The department store is long gone, but the parking lot is still there, and it really kind of looked like it hadn't even been resurfaced since then. And also in the parking lot was a Shipley's Donut franchise. So the universe was kind of aligning, so I went to the Shipley's and I got me a chocolate-filled donut, and I parked in the parking lot in my rental car, about the place where I kind of thought the bicycle lessons happened, and I sat there and cried and ate a chocolate-filled donut. But after a little while, I assume once the lease ran out on the apartment, my dad and I moved to a smaller city that was closer to where he worked. So the commute was killing him, of course. And we lived there, and we moved into a motel. It was an interesting motel with rooms that were shaped like teepees, like Native American houses. And I remember that the TV reception inside those was absolute rubbish. So we only stayed there for a week, and we moved into another motel that was closer to it was close, right across the street from a bar, a big country western bar. I guess you would call it a honky tonk, a place where the beer flows freely. And apparently, my dad was pretty good at doing the country and western dances, like the two-step and what have you. One night, after a night of being at this bar, he went to leave for work in the morning, and his car would not start. So he had to walk about 3 miles to his coworker's house and catch a ride. He was probably pretty hungover, probably wasn't feeling very well, and later on that day he had his first heart attack. Now, My biological mother and my first stepmother and my second stepmother were apparently acquaintances when they were younger. So this lady who was in my dad's social circle ended up visiting him in the hospital after this heart attack. One thing led to another, and they got married. So now I have my second stepmother. And from the age 9, I entered the fourth grade at a Baptist private school in Houston. I was there for 2 years, the fourth and fifth grade. Um, that was interesting to say the least, but it was enough to make me realize just how nonsensical all three Abrahamic religions are, and I have not looked back ever since. You just you just can't fool a kid. It's just you just can't do it. Now, when I was 5 years old, I forgot to mention, but my first stepmother had taken me to visit my biological mother. It was around Christmas time, and she gave me a present. It was this little electronic toy, like phone shaped thing, that was out of the box and did not work. So that was interesting. And then when I was 10 years old, so at 5 years old, that was the last time I laid eyes on my biological mother, and at 10 years old was the last time I talked to her on the phone. She had called to say that my older brother had gotten involved in the wrong crowd, and they did some bad things, and he was in prison. So you add that to the fact that I was having behavior problems, and my dad was living a long way away from his work. Uh, we moved out to the country again to another small town that was pretty close to my dad's work, and that's where I stayed for the rest of my school. Gave me a nice, healthy hatred of conservatives and small towns. Um, I don't dislike small towns anymore. I mean, I'm a lot older now. Small towns tend to be quiet, and there's nothing wrong with that. Uh, Not necessarily a lot of cool things to do in small towns, but at the time I was, young, and I was ready to get out and live. My second stepmother was not a very nice person. But she wasn't necessarily just like a mean person. No, she had some mental problems, and I ended up catching the brunt of a lot of them. So somewhere around the age of 16, I left home. Um, I finished that school year, which would have been my next to last school year, but then I was out getting a job working, and I just never went back for my last school year. So, yes, I became a statistic, a high school dropout. I never went back for my last year. Um, started started drinking and doing every illegal substance I could get my grubby little hands on. Uh, Basically couch surfing, living at other friends' houses for a while until I reached the age of 18. Um, Went to work at the company that my dad worked at. Worked there for about a year, but again, this is just a small town out in the middle of nowhere, so uh, that didn't last very long. At the age of 18, I left this small town, and a friend of mine and we moved up to Dallas. It was a city about 4 hours north of Houston, and I really liked it. Got a job, started working. Uh, Now I'm no longer hanging out with all the potheads that I was hanging out with in Houston. So kind of cleaned up my act a little bit. Um, started college. Went and got a GED. That's a general equivalency diploma. It's like a test you take, and if you pass it, they give you a diploma just like as if you finished high school. And so then I started college at the age of 21. it was a challenge. I was working nights, going to school during the day. This is North Texas. It was really really cold, and my car didn't have air heater in it, and so there were several times that I showed up at school with icicle dreadlocks because I'd wake up, take a shower, get in the car with wet hair. It's freezing, and then spend the rest of the class with my hair melting. And so from January till March of 1994, I was a college student. I was just taking, the basics, the introductory classes. And then, then my dad got kind of sick. He, remember I told you that he was working with only one kidney. He lost one kidney when I was 5. Well, whenever I was 21, his other kidney started to fail. So he had to quit working and take dialysis 3 times a week. And one time his little dialysis shunt got clogged up. So they were carrying him to the hospital to get it unclogged. On the way there, he went into heart failure, and his heart just quit working for, I don't know, about 10 or 20 times over the course of the next 24 hours. He was too weak for a pacemaker. I was living in Dallas. I immediately got on a bus. Still wasn't really thinking anything of it. One of my friends even asked me, he's like, "Man, what are you going to do if he doesn't pull through?" And this is casual Patrick here. Casual Patrick was okay, I'll just deal with it, like I deal with everything else. I did not know at the time that there is a finite capacity of a person's brain to deal with things. So I got to Houston, and within 2 hours, my old man had passed away. And this is probably a good stopping point. Stopping in 1994 at the age of 21. So, yeah, I'll say goodbye for now. I will attempt to upload this. The network is absolutely horrible at the moment. And, yeah, I hope you are sleeping good. It is we have 1:30 in the morning where you are. And I'll be going to sleep here pretty soon. Goodbye, Jet.